just a touch away for you. Till you lost my trust. Never felt the baddest thing on something. What makes you think you can lie to me? Did you lie to me? Yeah. Get away with it. Come back now to reality. Reality. 'Cause the love just don't get it. I was just a touch away, man. I'm moving for you. Till you lost my trust. Till you lost my trust. Baddest thing on Saturday. I was just a touch away. Just a touch. I'm moving for you. Till you lost my trust. Till you lost my trust. Baddest thing on Saturday. I don't trust just a touch away. Have you never lived like the rat to cheese? When all the time you resist trying to trap me. Closer and closer and closer to me. Trying to get me out the ground and trees. Now I wanna get tight like the harmonies. All you wanna do is just scheme. Riding in my gator, sitting on the things. Drinking and smoking up all my. I was just a touch, just a touch away. Till you lost my trust. Back this thing on up. I was just a touch away. For you. Till you lost my trust. The back this thing on up. Yes. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning to you all. To God be all of the glory. Waking us up, allowing us to see a day which we all have never seen before. Thanking Him for His goodness, His mercy, and all His favor and His grace that He has given unto us. Giving us another day is a blessing, it's a gift. Something that we didn't get right yesterday, we can all get it right today. And so on and so on as we continue our journey through this life. So I'm going to unpack a lot of things here today. This is going to start off with my discussion. I'm coming kind of late with it because the Bible teaches us that we have to listen and review things slowly before we challenge the conversation. And as I examined the conversation, what I'm going to talk about this that has been so uh, been out there on the internet that Rashonda Landfair wants to share her story and also bring to the public attention to resurface some of the things her and R. Kelly had explored in that episode of the infamous tape. I never saw the tape, so I can't tell you if it was R. Kelly and Rashonda. Never saw it. Only heard about it. Only talked about it in the community that I grew up in, the black community, in the black hood, in the ghetto, when the porn tape of celebrities was circusing the ghetto. Okay, to help destroy their careers, um, like they do to most black people in America. You know, they always try to find something of your weakness and record it. And recording necessarily doesn't necessarily mean recorded by film. Recorded is like sometimes just putting, you know, a story or a narrative to it. So you have to be very careful how you examine things the way you examine them on both sides of the aisle. Okay? So that's why I had to put it out there before people start reacting on before emotions, examine the record. It was a lot of things that Rashonda said before the trial that she had to attend in Chicago. Okay, so she got to put something out there, but hopefully, what she said because I ain't going to buy the book. I'm not interested. And I don't think I'm going to read much about it. Okay. But I'm just going to put my part on it as a R. Kelly supporter, saying that um, these things are going to be examined like a fine tooth comb, because it's been so many years ago that this supposedly had happened. And people are still alive, still alive. R. Kelly hasn't told his side of the story yet. His side of the story is still being buried under lies, okay? Or his truth is being buried with the lies. Everybody is letting the lies come out to drown out the truth. So that's why you have to be very careful of how you're listening, reading information. And of course, this generation that's coming up today, this young generation today, they don't know anything. They don't even know nothing about who they are. So they really don't have it. Okay. But those of us who came up as generation babies from Generation X in the silent generation, and those of us, the baby boomers and the silent generation children. Not the silent generation will be like the parents of the Generation X children. Okay, that will be silent X. But baby boomers, you would be the parents maybe of some of us, Generation X babies, or even some of the children right now coming up as um millenniums, I would think, that are coming up now or whatever. But what I'm saying here is that a lot of the kids today, young people today, don't really have enough things that are godly, okay, poured into them to make good judgment on content. They're not. They're not. They're not trained. They're not taught to have any kind of restraint. They're not taught to have any kind of way to examine things closely and then slowly speak on things without rushing to judgment on things. And that's what a lot of the young people today are taught to do, just rush to judgment. Anything people put out there in social media or on the news, which is the biggest part of brainwashing people, you have to be very careful. When I was coming up, we didn't have a lot of news. We didn't have a lot of platforms talking on certain topics, on going on and on all day. If we wasn't there to hear it on the news, we just didn't know about it. It is what it is. News didn't run 24 hours the way it does today. Now, there was some channels that stayed on world news and everything um, all day or whatever. But majority of the time, young people like at that time myself, we wouldn't be listening to no news. Okay, news was never really something that interests us. Now our parents and maybe grandparents were listening to a lot of the world news and things that were going on in political climate. But as far as like us being young people, we just lived our lives growing up, exploring with our world, and being doing fun things with our peers. We didn't have time for the internet like that. We weren't into that. And then we weren't interested in any celebrities. We waited to go get the Jet magazine or the Ebony magazine or buy those little, Star magazines at the grocery store when you go to the supermarket and they have the magazines there and you tell your parents you want to buy the magazine or whatever because you want your favorite, you know, say so-called celebrity was in that article. We didn't do the stuff that they do today. How they destroy people's image and character before it even gets to the courthouse. It's just ridiculous. So I just wanted to just bring this one up. We celebrating Black History Month, and we want to see the brokenness and the betrayal and some of the things that we have done to harm our own people, and how we allow people to play in our head with it. Okay. So this is a very important thing that I wanted people to read and to examine and to think about before they get into their feelings. Let me go into our Father's prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Lord, give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. Lead us, Lord, not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thy you are the kingdom and the power and also all the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Yeah, so I didn't want to just like really jump so quickly ahead of things. When this first came out about Rashonda, now R. Kelly supporters, we've been following this story for longer than R. Kelly been incarcerated. And let's get that together. We was not coming for people just when they arrested R. Kelly or R. Kelly's been incarcerated. We followed the trials from the courthouse out on the streets. We collect as much information as we can around this man's trial and his legal battles. We will make sure we were doing our own research. R. Kelly, that's why we are the R. Kelly supporters. The R. Kelly, not just the people that fans that just enjoy listening to his music. We have been his supporters. We have been able to go out, whatever was spoken on his name or whatever they said about him, we went to go and find out the truth for ourselves. Not asking R. Kelly because R. Kelly wasn't able to communicate outside here with us, even though there were some AI phone calls and other things that have happened around social media stating that it's R. Kelly. But we all know R. Kelly was cut off from his people in society out here. That nobody can't really have that kind of proximity to him or access to him. He's under a lot of security. A lot of security. Even though people have tried to fool people and trick some people up with this AI phone calls and stuff saying, oh, it's R. Kelly and da 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 da. And we all know, I know personally, I felt it from my spirit that it wasn't R. Kelly. And a lot of those platforms went into exile that were doing it. They don't come out, but they starting to pop up now that R. Kelly, more stuff is circulating about R. Kelly. So they back on the scene again. And just I don't even go to their platforms. To be honest with you, when I just see the title up there and I see they ready to have a conversation, I do see people that are viewing and watching that video that they or sitting on that live. I don't even go in because I said, I stay away from it because I don't want anything to get inside of me that shouldn't be or to cause me to get upset again or have a relapse. So I stay away from the nonsense. Okay. If you didn't stick with the story from the beginning and you haven't been sticking with the story from the beginning, there's nothing more I can tell you. There's really truly no interest. But if you do want interest, if you want more and more interest, you can go on and do your own research because I put the information out there. Go online, get the transcripts. You could go to some of the R. Kelly platforms that even did the reactment on the transcripts. Okay, you could go to some of their platforms. People that have been the most platforms on R. Kelly that you can go and get the transcript. And you can hear the transcript for yourself. R. Kelly was not able to speak. All the women that were part of that trial had a chance on the stand to tell their story. Rashonda, I believe, told her side of the story about how her aunt Stephanie, aka known as Sparkle, actually had her groomed and taught her what to say, how to say it, and what to do, and how to do it. Okay? So, of course, Sparkle, if you go back and do your research, rebunked her and said it was a lie and all this other craziness that came out. And of course, I don't think Stephanie was ever was on the stand. That should say something right there. When he went to trial for Rashonda, they reopened up a state case to a federal charge on him because at first the state case was dismissed. But then they took it and they added it to his federal cases on that part, which was 30 years ago, and they're going to open up and retry him again because they really didn't have anything to stick him with, because it really wasn't anything of his wrongdoings. It was their wrongdoings. There was things in the transcript about the other young lady, Rashonda and Geronda Pace, who was breaking into R. Kelly's yard, running across his yard, climbing over the fence, getting in his space, and finding her way into his bedroom. Now, what young girl who was doing certain things like that voluntarily, nobody was bringing her, nobody held anything to her, she found her way there to get into his bedroom? Go and read the transcript. And this testimony was given in his trial in New York. And it's funny how she was in a trial of out of his jurisdiction. Geronda Pace was not supposed to be at that trial in New York. She was only supposed to testify in the jurisdiction in Chicago. Notice that every victim, there was no victims in New York at all. But the trial he got hit with a RICO was in New York. Make that make sense. It was out of jurisdiction. So, like I said, God keeps records in heaven. Okay? So, whatever you evil, wicked things people try to do here on earth, God got the records up in heaven. You might not get your justice from man on earth, but you're going to get justice from the heavens, from God. Because God has had enough of it, I believe himself, on this stuff about R. Kelly with these young women. It's time now that we just put that stuff to rest. It's time now that people just move forward, move on from the man that was from the past in his young days when he was foolish. We all was foolish in our youth. Even the young lady now that's coming out telling her story is foolish in her youth. But we're here now. Nobody's been harmed that or damaged that badly that they just can't go get past it. You're not damaged that badly. Yes, things have happened that you're going to always keep in your memory, but you seem to have enjoyed it when it was happening. It wasn't like it was harming you. It was more like something you enjoyed, or you wouldn't have been doing it and staying in that relationship that long with R. Kelly. And your family also were working with R. Kelly. Your father, his drummer, and some part in his and your mother. Your whole family was right there. To me, it's like a family thing that goes on in the house of the family, and it should stay within the family, and it shouldn't be out here in the public because nobody has truly been harmed by any of it. Only person who's truly been harmed is R. Kelly. He's the only person who's truly been a victim of all of this. Because none of you people were really harmed by that man. Or you won't be sitting here today on a platform, writing a story, writing a book. You wouldn't even continue to have a relationship with him. Regardless of how your parents would have felt, you would have been calling him out in every platform you can possibly get on before he became so famous. Come on now. He wasn't all of that big shot of a famous person when all of this stuff was going down. Why y'all going to wait now in 30, 40 years to come out and talk about all of this stuff? If he was really harming y'all lives, the way y'all sit up here and say it, y'all would have been on every platform you possibly could get on just to make sure that R. Kelly name would have been tarnished. So don't come and tell the story now. We got records. We have documentation that everybody that took part in laying in that man's bed enjoyed every bit of it. And they were there because that's what they wanted to do. Ain't nobody no victim but R. Kelly. playing on his intelligence, playing on his feelings, and also playing on him. Point blank, period. He's the innocent one in all of this. Regardless of how you want to say these women are innocent, these women are not innocent. They were taught from very early how to be manipulative, how to be deceitful, and how to use what's between their legs to try to hold on to a man or try to destroy a man. Okay? They've been taught at a very young age. They were groomed from home by their parents. These young women were used to know it's the oldest trick in the book. Okay? It's one of the oldest professions in the book, prostitution. Using manipulative sexual manipulation to get what you want. It's the oldest biblical profession with women. And it starts from the womb. How they mamas manipulate them. Look at the story behind King Herod. Philip and his brother, the Herodias, and her daughter, when John the Baptist called her out and called her like you following right behind your mother, being like your mother and everything, your mother sleeping with your uncle and all the stuff John the Baptist called her out about. She got mad. She couldn't take it. So guess what? She used her daughter. She used her daughter to dance at a birthday party for the king and for the whatever he was, king or the Herod, whatever he was, and to get John the Baptist's head to be beheaded because she wanted that lady with her evil, wicked heart and her evil, manipulative deeds used her own daughter. Okay? It's the oldest. Prostitution is one of the oldest tricks in the books when women want to use the game of their bodies and manipulation to destroy men. Look at Bathsheba. She wasn't a prostitute. I wouldn't consider her a prostitute, but she was a married woman. And she knew she was a married woman. She knew she had a husband that was in a military man that was one of, fighting for David or whatever, one of David's best faithful servants or whatever. She knew that. She knew what time David was going to be on that balcony and she going to undress and get in the water and bathe and be naked so David could look at her. She knew that. She knew exactly what she was doing. When you read into the text, you're going to see that this was manipulation, deceitfulness. She knew it. She wanted to be seen. Let's go on with Tamar and Joseph. Judah. Not Joseph, but Judah. Because she was in the relationship with Judah's son, and Judah's father denied the fact for him to marry this woman. Okay? Because of that situation, his son ended up dying. So the other son who refused to marry her married somebody else that he wanted to marry, whatever way it was. But her, at that time, needing to be in a position where her child can inherit some kind of, to inherit some kind of successor or something to the family lineage. And her husband being dead and all. And she didn't have any children with him before his demise, or none of the sons from that family. She found a way to disguise herself as a prostitute and knew the time that Judah was going to be coming down that road, that she was going to dress like a prostitute and trick this man into having sex with her. And the way she did it is that she asked for something that was very valuable. His ring, his signet ring, and his staff. as a payment. And him being foolish, uh, gave it to her and didn't think nothing about it until this woman ended up pregnant, and she was pregnant. And then all of a sudden, she revealed who the father was of that child. The man who gave me this ring and this staff is the father of this child. Okay? So women have been using manipulation and deceitfulness throughout history in the Bible. When they feel they have a way to get a man's attention, to have sex with them, to do certain things and manipulate and then threaten him and say, oh, well, I'm going to tell the story this way. Just like this heifer trying to do now. R. Kelly is ready to go up against a new trial, being reopened, and all kind of other things are being re-examined. And now they want to come and throw this story out here. Every time something is going to work on the favor of R. Kelly, they come with this type of attention to the public. Every time. Soon as we were celebrating the fact that R. Kelly has been doing wonderful things, he's been doing remixes, he's been making music behind the scenes, he's been writing a lot of music, he's been really not bothering much of anybody out here. Okay? He's been really into doing the things he's doing, reaching out and being happy that his fans have been still out here supporting him, his supporters and everything. And Mark, and he's been doing nothing but good things, positive things, not bothering them, not doing anything to them and everything, doing his time, did his time already for what he supposedly did his time for. And they just don't want to stop. But God is going to work it out from the heavens. That's why I'm not going to get myself all worked up and crazy out here with these people to think the way they're going to think, because God is going to do some great things from the heavens, because God is going to work from the courts. Because like I said, God keeps records in heaven while y'all continue to come and trying to harm this man's life. Move on with your life. It happened. And you enjoyed every moment of it. And ain't nobody gonna convince me that she didn't. I don't care how old she was. She's a grown ass woman now. There's a lot of things we just gonna have to learn how to accept, that we made some bad choices when we were young, and as we grow older, we look back at it again and we can laugh at it and say, you know what? If I could do it again, I probably would have done the same thing all over again. And I'm just gonna keep it real, because some things are just meant to happen the way it went down. And we just got to move on and thank God that we weren't harmed or killed or whatever. We still here and we can move on and do better. And we don't have to make the same mistakes as we continue to go on in life. So I'm just sick and tired of hearing it. Nobody want to hear about what went on in your bedroom. I don't want to hear about no celebrity in their life in their bedroom. Only thing I'm concerned, only thing I enjoy hearing from my favorite artists in their craft is the music and how they put their work together. Other than that, they human just like I'm human, and they deserve to have a privacy to their life, just like anybody else. And that's something that should not be discussed openly in the public with everybody. They all can go and sit down and have family group therapy if they have to. But this is something that I don't think should be always out in the public and everybody should have an opinion about. Because not everybody can relate. So with that being said, y'all, let's go into my next conversation, which I wanted to talk about. But just give me a second because I have to take a break here for a minute because it is Sunday morning. I know a lot of you might still just be getting up. It's only 8 something in the morning, but I know a lot of you have a job, probably just getting out of bed or just getting ready for service. If you got children, you're trying to get them to Sunday school today, and that's understandable. I don't have any small children here, so I don't have to get up and go to Sunday school today. I can sit and watch and listen to a program here on television and take notes. Other than that, my days of taking Sunday school kids. Now, some days I get up, like I said, I'm a CME person, Christmas, Mother Day, and Easter. I didn't go this Christmas to service. I wanted to, but I didn't make it because I had so much to do and I wasn't able to, get it done. So I could get up on that morning and go to service. So, mostly on my religious holidays, like Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter, things of that nature. When you grew up in the foundation of Christ, there's just certain things that you just stay on a routine with, and things you just stay on top of to grow in Christ, to be strong, strengthened in Christ. So you don't have to continue to keep your mind on the things of this world. Because if you stay in the worldly way of thinking, guess what? You're going to perish. You're going to perish. And you're going to go to an early grave by staying in, listening to every voice in the world. You have to hear the words that are written in the scriptures, that God can give you the directions that you need with your life. You cannot listen to these everybody voice out here in the world, because not everybody in this world have you in their best interests. You have to be very careful to how you listen to things and how you view things out here in this world. Like I said, people are not dead. You may not see them. And I'm going to talk about when people talk about the dead. You may not see the dead, but they're around. The spirits are around. And that's why I say you be very careful how you speak on someone who you can't, is not here no more, to defend themselves. And as far as for the R. Kelly thing, R. Kelly is here. And before he go to the grave, we going to clean up this mess that they try to put on his name while he lived. How they try to bury him alive. And he had family too that loves him dearly. And most of his supporters and his fans is like his family. We love our Robert Sylvester Kelly. We enjoy our Robert Sylvester Kelly. And we looking every day for his release, so he can be back on stage with us, so he can perform the best way he can right now. And I'm sure he'll give us a good performance, even if he have to, you know, sit out there and sing his heart out, because that's how much he love doing what he does, especially for when he's in front of the cameras or on the stage, to do it for his fans. He loves his fans, he appreciates his fans, and that's why we go hardcore for him, because he interacts with us. He makes sure we are pleased to hear the sounds that he has to bring to us, the stories he has to tell to us. We don't care about being in his bedroom. Especially my age group, we ain't thinking about that. We just enjoy the memories and the things that his music bring to us, and also just enjoy just listening to those sounds of urban beats and sounds of what comes from his heart. You don't care about all that other stuff, and I think this stuff needs to stop. I really truly believe that they need to stop putting celebrities business all over the news or all over the internet. And if they do commit a crime while they on whatever time they on, that's the time you need to deal with it. Don't come back at us when 30, 40 years from now researching somebody's story and talk about, tell your own damn story. That's the way I feel. Why are you sitting around talking about everybody? What about you? What about you? What are you doing? What's your blueprint? I am so done with it. And that's like I said about football, season. It's the Super Bowl. We don't need to listen to all the politics. We came here to watch the game and watch the players. We ain't come here for y'all. Everybody need to stay in their lane. People are just getting in places they not supposed to be. Well, anyway, because they doing it to them, they'll do it to you too. So what you saying as far as like keep people name out your mouth, especially when they not here to defend themselves. And then on top of that, if you weren't there to witness any of the acts, then you shouldn't be speaking on it in a negative way, point blank, period, because you weren't there. You weren't there. And only God knows what's going to happen to you in this world, because if you still here, God ain't finished with you yet. What's your story going to be in the end? Or what you going to do in this life to make a difference. I said public discussions surrounding high profile cases must remain grounded in verified documentation. Court transcripts and sworn testimony exist as public record. They contain content, timelines, and statements that should be reviewed in full before forming conclusion based solely on renewed media coverage. While individuals have the right to share their experience, the public equally has the responsibility to distinguish between emotional narratives and documented legal records. Serious matters deserve serious examination, not reactive commentary. Truth shouldn't withstand review. Before emotion, examine the records. I put it in the graphic here about what was stated under oath. You're going to find everything. And then if you want to read her book, you can go ahead and read it. If you want to be that damn, invasive, as you want to be that nosy and you want to get all the details, then go ahead and do it. I have no interest in reading this woman's book because throughout the entire time of R. Kelly's career, it's been things surrounding that tape and discussions about that tape and all that other stuff for 30 or more years, almost 40 years. So I'm done with it. I don't really care to hear nothing more about it, to be honest with you. But as on R. Kelly's behalf and as an R. Kelly supporter is the only reason I'm having this conversation, because his name is here and he's not able to defend himself. So I'm here to defend him for him. Okay? I'm stepping in to defend him and to be a voice out there for him. So this woman here is irrelevant to me, really. I really heard everything I needed to hear about her involvement with R. Kelly, and that's why I'm just here to direct your attention to the documents and tell you to go read the documents for yourself, and everything is documented. Okay? Before you go out and listen to her story and how she going on platforms, because she wasn't saying all of this 30-something years ago, and she was old enough then to speak up. Okay? She was old enough way before she got to this point to speak up. Before R. Kelly was even incarcerated, she had she should have had the strength and everything with her parents before before her father's demise. I don't know about her mother, but they could have been on the platform to witness for her, but they weren't. And after the relationship, this so-called stuff, she still remained in a relationship around R. Kelly. And then on top of that, she went to go live with R. Kelly. She was 26 or whatever years old. She wasn't no child. And I'm going to tell you this right now, 13, 14 years old and 15 years old back in my time were having sex with grown-ass men. Oh, yeah. And their parents approved of it. I didn't hear no parents coming for R. Kelly. Only thing I ever heard was media or somebody else, like not no parents. Only parents that you seen that actually did come out, and that was the ones who were plants that basically was working along with the government to frame R. Kelly. So it wasn't no parents looking for their daughters during that time and putting out missing reports or abuse cases on R. Kelly or whatever. So that should make that make sense. And her parents were working in R. Kelly's camp. So it couldn't have been that much abuse. And Stephanie was silenced by her family or something like that. Stephanie, which is a Sparkle, because see, Sparkle wanted to be R. Kelly's protege. And from what I understand, she was supposed to have been the girl for R. Kelly, protege or whatever like that. They were supposed to be doing great music together, collaborating with great songs together, whatever. But then they wanted to get somebody younger for more controversy. So that's when they got Aaliyah. And they bumped her ass out of the way. And they had to put controversy around his name with Aaliyah about marriage and all this other nonsense. So it's a lot of things. So it's just too much stuff to go back to remember. Okay, just put it that way. These people tell their story. That's their story, not my story. But these are the things that I did hear from certain things that I did research um on, and I don't really speak much on Aaliyah because Aaliyah's dead and she's not here to defend herself, and her testimony goes along with her in her grave. And she said it never happened, so I gotta go by what Aaliyah said. And even her living testimony, which is her mother, did not um also denied that her daughter was married to R. Kelly, okay, as an underage bride or marriage or whatever, something like that. So who I'm going to believe? I'm going to believe Aaliyah's mother, or I'm going to believe the fucking media? I'm going to believe her mother. Regardless, if that's the way she felt about her daughter, that's the way she felt about her daughter. So who else is to change all of that? Okay, so it is what it is, and I'm just so sick and tired of these people coming up with their story now. You old and old now, and R. Kelly moved on. He's been locked up. He has been redeemed, whatever, and he been doing his time. He been trying to keep himself above water and keep himself out of mess. He ain't been messing with none of y'all. It's been over 30 something years. Like that Judge Lyman Weber or whatever his name said, you women need to move on. And these were his last words before he died and went to his grave. The old judge, he says the man lost interest, emotionally detached himself from you guys. And you women want the attention. So you want to come out here and tell your story to get emotions all flared up. The judge said that that's documented too. He said that that R. Kelly lost emotion with these women. I don't see him being a pedophile. That's documented. So y'all go figure and see what the judge said. It's documented. Go read the transcript. But most black people don't like to read anyway. They like to be more emotional than reading. Yeah, that's why they perish. See, when you don't read, that's how your emotions get played with, and that's how people just play in your head. People just play in your head. You let the devil play in your head when you don't read and try to find the truth out for yourself. Read. Go do your research. Fools perish because of lack of knowledge. When you don't get out there and do your research for yourself about R. Kelly, Rashonda, all of these people, if you wasn't following the story, you shouldn't even have anything to say on anybody's thread when it comes to his name or anything discussed about him. And like I said, God is watching from the heavens and he keep records. And there are spirits alive. There are people that you don't even see. Just the other day in this house, I was here by myself and the hallway light came on upstairs. And I was like, I didn't turn that light on and ain't nobody in the house but me. Why did this light flick on? It flicked on for a while, then it went off. And not only did it do it one time when I was in the house alone, it happened quite a few times. I went and I turned just to check it again. I went and flickered and played with the light switch. It went off. It hasn't been back on since I did that. I looked around. I looked in the basement. I looked in the garage. I looked in all of other places in the rooms and see if anything. I checked around the house. I wasn't scared of anything, but I was like, wow, that's interesting. This is so and so. This happened. And not only just that time, something happened to me being alone in the home. And let me remind you now, the family that lived here, they lived in this house from the time this house was built. They were the first and only first owners of this house before it was bought. They were members of my church in the ministry of my church that was the original owners of this house. So they moved, they bought another piece of property, their family expanded. So this house was a little too small for this was for a first time home by a small family settings, whatever. Or a young one couple family house. It's not a house for a family, a big old group of family. It's a small family. It was built for that. It wasn't built for no large family settings. It's a first home buying, small family settings, or first couple, whatever home, whatever. So, of course, it didn't have, and I never heard of anybody died here in the house or nothing like that. No stories of who the people were. So I said, sometimes, spirits are still alive. And the only person I could think of that was probably checking on me in the house was my mother. Spirits are around. That's the only person I could have thought of that is wanting to make sure, like checking on me in the home, making sure I'm safe, making sure things is okay, whatever. Just let me know their presence is here. Only person that went to the grave that I know that truly, deeply, deeply I miss is my mother. And I said, look, it might have been mommy. Just checking, making sure I was okay. Because I remember when my mother passed away and I was staying in her apartment that night. And I will never forget the doors. The front door of the apartment was shaking like it was like a wind, like a hard shake. Like somebody was trying to get in, shaking the door. And this would happen all the time. And I was like, and for some reason, I never was scared. I wasn't scared. I said, that's mommy letting me know I'm in here. I'm coming in. Like letting me know she was there watching me. So when you don't think people are watching you, like spirits are alive, they are alive. You just don't see them. And that's why I say be careful about how you speak on somebody when they dead and gone. They may not be here in your presence to defend themselves, but the spirit is somewhere around. And that spirit will touch somewhere or somebody to expose you. Like people get out here and they talk bad about the Black Panthers. They say some horrible, like that guy that he catching hell right now. How you gonna relive something? Why you gonna go dig something up from the grave and try to re renew it and do all of this? Whatever was done with the Black Panthers during that time in the 60s or whatever was sealed in the grave. It was done for a specific time and it was a special, I would say it was a calling for that assignment. It was a calling for these civil rights leaders. It was a calling on their life. God did not call you to do that because you have to have a special kind. It has to be something that has to be in your heart deeply, and it has to truly be affecting your people deeply. The order for you just can't just put yourself out there to cosplay something because it will backfire. Don't touch, taste, or handle something. If God didn't give it to you, God didn't give it to you because you're not coming in the fight for the right reasons. For a white girl that got shot for doing something stupid, that black people gonna put their life out there to get riled up and get harmed. For a white girl who going, that ain't how the Black Panthers move, and don't even try to make it sound like that. This is a time now that God comes to set justice right. Okay? But we are to sit back and allow God to do what God has to do to deal with these wicked people and their wicked ways of all the things they've done wickedly throughout history to black Americans. God is dealing with the wicked, and that's why we as black Americans should stay away. Because God going to have them turn their guns and all their wickedness on each other. They're going to turn on each other, and you got to stay away from it. Not all of them, but just the wicked ones that need to be removed from this earth. People that have no God, they not God-fearing, and they don't belong here very long. They have no soul. Because if you really value your life that God has given you, you ain't gonna put yourself in a stupid fight with ICE agents with no weapons. Black people always known, those of us who do know our true history, and those of us who were born and given a foundation in Christ, we already know not to go into certain battles. We already know that the civil rights fight for civil rights for Black American people have already been demonstrated and has already been won. Okay? Has already been demonstrated and has already been won. Whatever they don't want to give us, when God already said, okay? So, and they refuse to do the right thing, don't worry. The courts in heaven keeps records. And when God said he's going to justify something, he's going to justify, because how long they think this is going to continue to go on? Ain't nobody in the world globally is stupid anymore. They already know what black people already went through in the United States of America. Now that our voices are rising and we are speaking out and we are speaking loud, we ain't out there marching, but we're speaking. Not even in words, even through action. And that's not, our actions is just not taking participation in protesting. Because we already know what it's all about. We already said it. We already been there, done that. We ain't gonna spend the rest of our life fighting for something that's supposed to be ours from birth. Come on. God gonna justify it. He already is. So get out of the way. Get out of the way. And let God do what he does best. Be God. And now I'm gonna move on from this, and we're gonna go into something else. I wanted to share my memories of this man right here, King of Comedy. I wanted to talk about Richard Pryor. I didn't want to forget him while we going over our history in Black American history. This is one trailblazer, okay? Richard Pryor was one of my very favorite from a little girl coming up, because he remind me of my family, uncle in my family, those uncles. I had an uncle like that, brother, my father's brother, who would come around, and he used to, back then they call it talking jive. You know, he was a cool dude. The women loved him. Of course, he was married. He had a family. He had children of his own. And his wife and kids only came around during when it was family time and holidays and all that other stuff. Yes, he was there around his family. The jokester loved his children now, but he didn't play with them. Okay, he didn't play with them. Okay, he checked them real good. And Richard Pryor, believe it or not, was a good dad. He was a good father. He didn't put his kids out there. He had a daughter, Rain. Rain was his daughter he had with his wife. She was Jewish, whatever, his wife or whatever. But Richard Pryor, I would rather his kids tell the story because they know best. But something about his characteristics that I know about Richard Pryor was that Richard Pryor wasn't no pedo. He didn't mess around with young kids now. He ain't gonna mess with you. Your kid, he wasn't no pervert in that type of order. He loved his women. He loved to be around his women and everything. But when it came to that kid stuff, don't come to Richard Pryor with that. He showed us that in Bustin' Loose and everything. You know, that's part of his character. But one place he won't go. But when it came to telling people how he felt in a comical way, but real, that's who Richard Pryor was. And I remember his first album, comedy album. It was in the house. It was Bill Cosby. We had Bill Cosby's album with his storytelling in his life about his children. He had the twins and all this stuff. But his jokes were basically more, Richard Pryor was more vulgar than Bill Cosby, but Bill Cosby was more clean, but in a child way. He kept his comedy more child friendly. Just put it that way. That's why he was America's best dad. Because we did have Bill Cosby in my home. We had a Bill Cosby album, comedy album, and we had That Nigga Is Crazy. Now, Richard Pryor was the main one, loved that nigga word. And then he said he ain't going to use it no more. But Richard Pryor was the man, though. We got to give him credit. He was funny. Even by looking at Richard Pryor, you had to laugh. He just walked in the room and cracked you the F up. He was just that funny. He was just born to make you laugh. And I believe he followed Red Fox, because Red Fox came from an older generation, and he probably followed Mom Mabley's or some other comedian back then in his time. Even though Red Fox was funny, but when Richard Pryor came, he took the case. He was even funnier than Eddie. And Eddie Murphy came up in my time, but I still found Richard more funny than Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was a little too foul. His language really, really was bad. But Richard Pryor, he had some type of way of saying it in a way where it didn't sound too raunchy. He said it in a way where it made it sound clean and dirty at the same time. That's the way Richard was. Um, Teenagers enjoyed his humor the most. Adults enjoyed his humor because he told real stories to make you laugh. Even his own story about when he got caught out there with crack cocaine, and he became an addict of the drug crack cocaine, and how he stayed getting high. He did the movie, he did his story, JoJo Dancer, Your Life is Calling. He gave some parts about scripts about his life on film, from growing up in the South, how his father remarried his mother, wanted to live in a whorehouse and run the streets or whatever. That was his story, and he grew up seeing that stuff, but he's not really actually seeing it. But during that time he was growing up, the way the survival game was being done in his family. But his father was an upstanding guy. He made it, he wanted best for his children. But Richard didn't want that. Richard wanted to get out in the world and explore with things other than that little country life he had come from. And his wife couldn't go with him because she couldn't live nowhere outside of being around her family. So he had several wives. When you a man of that kind of, that's your life. These women, either you gonna hang or you gotta go. Like he said in the story, like you can't hang with it. Not saying he didn't love them, but it's just certain things that came along with the territory. And some women heart couldn't take it. They thought just once he found her, his life was supposed to stop, and he was supposed to just stick to comedy, and not even comedy, but become a working class guy, a guy to work in blue collar jobs or do something of that nature. And that just wasn't who Richard was. Richard Pryor wanted to make the world laugh instead of cry, because of all the harmful things that were being done around his people. There still was some hope given. How to keep your head above the nonsense, how to laugh and keep it moving. And he did a demonstration, a skit, a comedy skit of him being the president of the United States. And I'm going to take you to that. But before I do, let's talk about what I wrote here about Black History Month moment with Richard Pryor. I said my first comedy album wasn't streamed. It wasn't on YouTube. It was vinyl. I remember hearing that nigga's crazy through the walls of my childhood home. My father owned the album. My older siblings would sneak it into their room and play it with their friends. I would sit in the next room listening, absorbing every word. That was my first introduction to raw, honest, black storytelling through comedy. Richard Pryor wasn't unrealistic. He wasn't performing fantasy. He spoke truth even when that truth was uncomfortable. He talked about black life as it really was. He talked about addiction. He talked about pain. He even spoke openly about his own near-death experience with crack cocaine. And somehow he made us laugh instead of cry. His facial expressions alone could carry a whole story before the punchy even landed. His face said everything. That wasn't just talent, that was calling. Richard Pryor was born to do exactly what he did, tell the truth, wrap it in humor. He gave voice to stories that many were living, but few were bold enough to say out loud. For many of us, he wasn't just a comedian. He felt like that brilliant uncle in the family, flawed, honest, charismatic, unforgivable. Unforgettable. I mean, not unforgivable, but unforgettable. Because I never had no uncles do anything harmful to me. Never. God always kept me protected. My mother always had her eyes and everything around men, around the family, around her female children. So that my mother was really good at protecting her daughters on. Okay? She didn't care who they were. You were not allowed to sit on no man's lap or play too much in any man's face when you was just a little girl. It was not allowed in my home. Okay, and I said, the Black History Month, I salute the king of comedy. Richard Pryor is forever buried in my childhood memory, not just as a legend, but as a cultural storyteller who helped us laugh through reality. Rest in peace to a giant who meant so much to us, Richard Pryor. I loved me some Richard Pryor. And when he came back in 1980s, in the 80s and stuff, when he did his stand-up, after he came back from recovering from the burns that he had received from crack cocaine, and he set himself on fire. And he came back to tell his story from that experience. And that was brave and bold, and that was beautiful. And he did it in such a way. And like I said, nobody is better than Richard Pryor, because he told the stories of things that went on in those times. That's when the epidemic of heroin and everything, crack cocaine, was starting to neutralize the black community. It was really getting bad out there. It was hitting young kids and everything in the community. They had selling dope, and that's when the Black Panthers was out there fighting to keep that shit out of the neighborhood and trying to do things as far as push for education, food programs, healthcare, and other things that was necessary for black people back then. That's why I say nobody can't revamp their story. You cannot retell their story or redo their story. Okay, you just keep it right where it is, because Huey Newton, and we're going to talk about it because Richard Pryor did a skit on Huey P. Newton on one of his acts, that he was going to get Huey P. Newton to be the director as a black president of the United States. He was going to get Huey P. Newton was going to be his director of the FBI. That was humorous, and I'm going to show you that skit. Okay, I'm going to show you that skit. That was the funniest.
May I have your attention, please? Ladies and gentlemen, the 40th President of the United States.
I'm laughing because he was being introduced as the 40th president of the United States. President Obama became the 44th president of the United States, or the 45th, or whatever president of the United States. So I just want to know if he ever saw this skit, because this shit was funny as hell. Okay, Richard Pryor was hilarious.
Mr. President, Tom Matthews, UPI. Mr. President, earlier this year you said that you would travel anywhere in the world to further the cause of peace. Considering the worsening situation in the Mideast, are you planning a trip there in the near future?
We have no definite plans as of yet to go to the Mideast, but we do plan maybe perhaps in a couple of years if the settlement and the agreements have not been reached by that time.
Thank you.
Paul Oraki from Honolulu News. Mr. President, the Senate has voted to proceed with development of the neutron bomb. Don't you feel this will impede further progress in the SALT talks with the Russians?
Quite contrary to that fact, the matter of nuclear existence deals with atoms and atomic weapons, not with neutron weapons. The neutron bomb is a hold-cost weapon. It is not in the cellular realm of reality. We're trying to hold it in place, and it's a neo-pacifist weapon.
Clarence Richards, AP.
Isn't he doing it? Don't Obama be following this kind of stand? I mean, really, he had to be watching and practicing Richard Pryor of him being the first fake black president of the United States. I say the first fake black president, and I'm gonna tell you why I say the first black fake president of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask you a question, which I'm sure the American people would like to know. Do you feel that within the fiscal year, the unemployment rate will drop below the 5% level?
Well, as you know, the 5% level pertains mostly to, if I may say, white America. In the black America, the minority situations is up to high as 45%. We plan to, with all our efforts, try to lower that rate to about 20% in the black areas, and of course it will be lower in the white areas, of course. We're trying to do this and merge a United States.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Arthur Williams, Chicago Sun-Herald. You've just okayed a $250 million increase in our space program. What I'd like to know is the main reason you did this so we can finally recruit black people for the space program?
I feel it's time that black people went to space. White people have been going to space for years and spacing out on us, as you might say. And I feel with the projects that we have in mind, we're going to send explorer ships through other galaxies, and no longer will they have the same type of music, Beethoven, Brahms, and Tchaikovsky. From now on, we have little Miles Davis and Charlie Parker. Yes, ma'am.
Roberta Davies, Jet Magazine. Mr. President, on your list of candidates for Director of the FBI, are you including the name of Huey Newton?
Yes, I figured that Huey Newton is best qualified. He knows the ins and outs of the FBI. If anybody knows the ins and outs. And he would be an excellent director.
Yo,
That's what I'm talking about.
Brother Bell from Ebony Magazine. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Select a line.
All right.
This was
What you looking at, Snow White?
Now this was comedy, okay? A little fun, a humor of politics mixed in with real stuff that keep you laughing instead of crying. The way he said he was going to pick Huey Newton to be the director of the FBI because he knew that Huey had the experience, how they move, how they think, and what they need to do to stop certain criminals from getting into the United States and other things that are trafficking around in the United States as far as crime, drugs, and all of that other stuff. Because you can only help something if you already had that experience with it. So Huey was the best part for him. Black director he can pick as a black president. You're going to put as many of your people around you as you possibly can. Now, Obama, I say, was a fake black president because he didn't put black people around him. He put white people around him and women around him. He didn't pick too many black women. He didn't pick black men. And if he really knew anything about the history of black America, those should have been the people he should have been surrounding himself with, but he didn't. He surrounded himself with whiteness, okay? More whiteness. And another thing I wanted to say is because I believe in his second term, when Trayvon Martin, okay, was harmed and killed by George Zimmerman in Sanford, Florida, a few weeks after his 17th birthday, because Trayvon just turned 17 when his life was snuffed out by the vigilante George Zimmerman. That when that question was addressed to Obama about what happened about the arrest of George Zimmerman, Obama did not want to answer it direct. all he said is that this was a local situation, which he didn't even look at it as a hate crime. That's what messed up that whole thing with George Zimmerman did to Trayvon Martin. Right then and there, that should have been a hate crime. Because it was such an outcry behind it that this young boy was left dead. His father's looking for him, and then to find his son in a morgue. His 17-year-old son. That was horrible. And for President Obama to have just said it's a local investigation, he should have lifted it higher than local. He should have went for it to be more from a state to a federal. And he had the power as the president of the United States of America, and if he knew anything about black history, and he had any real true love and real concerns about black American lives, he would have stuck to the program. He would have said, look, okay, we are not going to take this as a local, because this man wasn't held in custody for committing the crime without us really truly doing a thorough investigation. A young boy is dead. His father been looking for him, found his son in the morgue. Witnesses, I even heard witnesses said the boy was screaming for help, and they heard his voice, and they blocked that out. They took down those people that were witness, that did see that it was George Zimmerman that stalked Trayvon's friend, the girl, young teenage confused young lady got on it. It was just so much messiness around that, and George Zimmerman should have been held accountable. He should have been held accountable. Because believe it or not, if it was the other way around, it would have been done that way. And Obama being the black president that he was, that something like this was on his watch, he could have done more to support that family. Because if it was President Trump, he would have used his white privilege to the utmost. To the utmost. And President Obama had every part of him, he had every opportunity, to use his power to be in that position, and black America would have backed him up. But he didn't. He left us hanging. But he had a whole lot to say for Alex Prince. Stupidity. Okay? Stupidity, claim as day. That's why I said I can't mess with Obama no more. I just can't. I can't look at him the same no more. Because I know I voted for him twice. But as a president of the United States to allow a hate crime like that to just slip through the crack, that right there was a disservice and an injustice to black people. And I just can't never say he's a black president, a real black president. He was a fake black president. And I'm going to keep saying he was a fake. And I'm glad we didn't put Kamala in there so she could finish the job.
Brother, about blacks in the labor force. I want to know what you're going to do about having more black brothers as quarterbacks in the National Football Hunter League. Right on.
I plan not only to have lots of black quarterbacks, but we're going to have black coaches and black owners of teams. As long as it's going to be football, going to be some black in it somewhere.
Right on.
Right. So I'm tired of this mess that's been going down.
Right.
Ever since the Rams got rid of James Harris, that was my job.
Yes, what is it?
Mr. President.
Yeah, what?
Mr. Bigby, Mississippi Herald.
Sit down. Yeah, what is it?
Mrs. Fenton Carlton Macker, Christian Women's News. Mr. President, since you've become president, you've been seen and photographed on the arms of white women. Quite frankly, sir, you've been courting an awful lot of white women. Will this continue?
As long as I can keep it up.
You kept it real.
Why do you think they call it the White House?
Mr. President. Now, your predecessor, President Carter, now his mother was a nurse before.
What is your question about, sir?
My question, I'm leading up to my question. The question is about your mother, if you want to be famous.
It's okay. Please, let's take it easy. The man has a right to ask the question. Please. Please. Let's have some decorum. Now, what is the question about my dear mother?
Your mother was a maid in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Now, after your tenure, if your mother goes back to being a maid, right? Will your mama do my house?
Okay, y'all, that's enough of that comedy. But I just wanted to just share a flashback here with y'all about about Richard Pryor and his comedy, and how his comedy has been an influence on Black social issues. Okay, he talked a lot about it in his jokes. It was a joke, but it was real stuff. Okay, it was real, and I had to not go through this Black History moment without mentioning Richard Pryor. We talk about everybody else, but we don't talk about the trailblazers, the ones who really, really put that foundation of comedy around political issues, things that were very uncomfortable to talk about, and how people were able to talk about it and make it in a joking manner, but it was a real thing that was happening. So we wanted to acknowledge that in the Black History moment of America. And with that being said, your girl Casey, I gotta go pop off of here to get my breakfast and everything, Sunday breakfast ready. So I will hopefully try to come back with you later. So you will have a blessed and wonderful Sunday. Peace.